call tonight's City of Aztec City Commission meeting for October 8th, 2019, officially to order at 6:08. If Commissioner Randall, again, is going to do the invocation for us, and I'll lead us through the pledges. If you would please stand.
Please pray with me. Dear Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this wonderful fall day you've given us, Lord, and all the many blessings we enjoy in our fine community. And we ask a special blessing upon our country, our state, and of course our fine little city of Aztec, and pray you be with us and watch over us in the decisions we make for it, Lord, and pray continue to bless us and be with us. In Jesus' name, amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I salute the flag of the state of New Mexico and see a symbol of perfect friendship among human cultures. Perfect. Carly, would you please call the roll? Here?
Here.
Commissioner Sykes?
Here.
Commissioner Lewis?
Here.
Commissioner Randall?
Here.
All present.
Next is agenda approval. If there are any items that do not meet the approval for being heard on this evening's agenda, now is the time to remove those items. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to accept tonight's agenda as given.
Mayor, I'd move to approve this evening's agenda as given. Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next is our consent agenda. Items placed on the consent agenda will be voted upon with one motion. If any item proposed does not meet the approval of all commissioners, a commissioner may request that the item be heard under items from consent agenda. Hearing none, I would entertain a motion to approve tonight's consent agenda as given.
Mayor,
Ma'am.
I'd like to move to approve tonight's consent agenda as given.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Moving on to citizens' input. Is there anybody signed up? Nobody signed up for citizens' input. Okay. Next up is item 9, business items. Business item A, intent to adopt ordinance 2019-495, an ordinance granting a franchise to Comcast Cablevision of New Mexico / Pennsylvania, Inc., to operate and maintain a cable system in the city of Aztec, New Mexico.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor. The current agreement, franchise agreement we have with Comcast was put in place in 2003. It expired after 10 years, which was 2013. And Comcast requested a 5-year extension, which by the agreement they could. Aaron Muffalato is here tonight from Comcast to give a short little presentation. If y'all have any questions, she's available. I can answer some as well. The old agreement is in the packet as well as the new agreement. And it would be for a term of 10 years as well.
Okay.
So if y'all have any questions, or Aaron, if you want to say anything, or
Please go ahead. Thank you. Thanks for
Welcome.
coming.
Good evening. Like you said, my name is Erin Muffaletta, representing Comcast this evening. I actually put together some packets for you all just to have as a reference of what we do in the community throughout the state, if I can.
approach. Thank you. And I've already got one.
Oh, okay.
Really what this franchise does more than anything is update our customer service standards. The old ones just very outdated, expired. We wanted to make sure that your constituents had the most updated customer service standards. So when there are issues, that they're getting the best service, just like everybody else throughout the country. So that's pretty much the biggest change. And then another one is just making sure that when there are any construction issues, that we're working closely with the city on those matters. One other update, just wanted to let you all know, about 2 months ago, Comcast, we did a large expansion with our Internet Essentials program. So that's a $9.95 a month internet. So we just expanded that to all low-income individuals. So anybody who receives any type of federal assistance is now eligible for that. That's $10 a month, no credit check, no contract to sign. It's really amazing program. And then once they're on that, they can receive a brand new laptop or desktop for $150. So just so you all are aware of that. And then if you all have any questions on the renewed franchise ordinance, I'm happy to answer.
Mr. Mayor,
Yes,
I have a
sir.
quick question. Are there any plans to go underground? I know a lot of Comcast lines are up on poles.
Right, so if there are any future or new construction, then we will work with this city to make sure that happens.
I think Ken's referred to that. You
Yes.
know, any new construction, like, so for example, North Main,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
things like that, it'll be part of the electricity, everything that's running will be run underground, correct? Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
I don't personally have a lot of questions. It's just basically a renewal of the franchise and, you know, to keep, you know, an update to the service, you know, contract and things.
Correct.
You know, it's maybe some additions that are available now that weren't available before, or at least not listed in the agreement. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes.
Okay. So does anybody have any questions or comments or discussion?
I don't have anything.
Okay. Thank you, ma'am. I appreciate your coming and providing the information. We have contact information in case any of us kind of flip through this and something jumps out at us, so we could always reach out, you know. Okay. In that case, I'll open this up quickly to discussion. I think I kind of already did. I just want to formally do it. Any questions or discussion? Hearing none, I would entertain a motion for business item A.
Mayor, I'll move to approve intent to adopt ordinance 2019-495, an ordinance granting a franchise to Comcast Cablevision of New Mexico / Pennsylvania Incorporated to operate and maintain a cable system in the city of Aztec, New Mexico.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snyder?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright?
Aye.
Commissioner Slack?
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis?
Aye.
Commissioner Randall?
Aye.
Motion passes 5-0.
Okay. Next up is business item B, FY20 funding request for Four Corners Economic Development, or FORSED. Kathy, I think they have, oh, I'm sorry. The summary's by you. I'm sorry. Go ahead, Steve.
I can cover it. I mean, we just got the invoice from Forset. The budgeted amount of $20,000 for, is what has been budgeted for the amount that the commission has awarded Forset in the past. Previous discussions have led to what that funding amount should be. And we just received an invoice for half of the funding for the fiscal year, which is $10,000. We don't have any formal agreement with Forset for a specific amount, so now would be the time to entertain discussion and decision as far as what amount the commission wants to fund Forset at.
Okay. Yeah, we knew this was coming. We've been talking about it on and off for a while now.
Right.
And it's kind of, and I'm sorry, if you don't mind, I'm going to kind of open discussion on that. We've talked, I've been to one or two FORSED meetings. I know Mayor Pro Tem is kind of our representative. And I think, I don't know, have all of us been at least once maybe?
I've
No.
been, well,
No.
I've been
Okay.
once, but it's been a long time.
Right.
So,
And I'll just kind of lay out my concerns is that the proverbial seat at the table kind of thing is what we've often been told for remaining in FORSED, and I'm not necessarily opposed or, you know, for the seat at the table. I think it's always important to have some voice, but to be quite honest, I feel like our voice is minimal at best, and our investment is significantly more than some of the smaller communities that are a member of FORSED. And I think we need to adjust that. You know, I don't know what that's going to look like. We'll consider that tonight and obviously make a decision. But I think that, I think $20,000 is an expensive seat at the table. And most of the board members, and somebody please stop me and correct me if I misspeak, but most of the board members are, and it's understandable, I guess, because the largest city in this area is Farmington, and most of the board members are going to come from businesses located in Farmington. But I still feel like we're underrepresented to no fault of our own. And I think that the emphasis is put on the Farmington projects and businesses, and I don't think we're getting our money's worth, to just kind of boil it down and be very blunt about it. And I'm not saying that we shouldn't be a member, I just don't know if we should remain at that level of funding. I mean, we were just talking about funding at the golf course, you know, thing about money being tight and we have to make difficult decisions. Could somebody, does anybody remember, I had this number before and I'm sorry, I don't recall what some of the outlying or smaller municipalities are contributing. Bloomfield's around a couple grand maybe? Is that accurate? Do you know, Kathy, or roughly?
I don't know for certain, I remember it being discussed.
Right. I want to say $2,500 jumps out in my head, but, yes, ma'am.
The old numbers I have from 2018, because I go to the foundation meetings, and we haven't had one for several months because they haven't been able to get a quorum together. And the last numbers, and, you know, they're not real current, were $2,500 for Kirtland and Bloomfield. My concern has been, as you mentioned, is that we don't have enough people at the table. We don't have businesses. I'm it. And it represents businesses, and thus far, we have not had people go. Maybe in the past they did. Do you know if they did
I don't.
in the past?
Not that I know of for certain.
And the Forset has been somewhat in transition from losing a director and then a big space before they confirmed the new director, and now the administrative assistant is gone. Arlen Trujillo seems to now have a handle on the management and direction and has established some committees to encourage businesses to participate and so forth, but we really are lacking influence at the table by the business community. So, and I will keep encouraging through Mr. Saavedra and the EDAB to ask those folks to attend the meetings. And, but anyway, we have definitely been paying more than our share at some level. My concern at this point is they've sent us a bill and are expecting $10,000, and what's going to be the surprise when, you know,
Right.
since we haven't had an agreement. So, anyway, that's
Well,
my
it kind of
concern.
feels like it's just one of those things that it's become a habit where we kind of write the check and we haven't really maybe looked back, like, kind of like an electric bill. You're used to seeing it about this much and you don't really, what can I do to maybe reduce this cost? Can I get new light bulbs? Can I check for, you know, for ways that I'm wasting electricity or, you know, or utilities of any sort, or my pipe's leaking, you know? Is there something I can do to bring that cost down and still get the same level of service? You know, and that's
Well-
kind of what I feel like we are doing now, is kind of stepping back and reflecting a little bit.
I will have a meeting with Arlen and discuss this with him and, you know, see how this is affecting their overall budget and so forth. But, I mean, they have some large money donors and so forth in the organization. So, anyway, I have planned on meeting with him. When I was sent that invoice, I thought, oh, man, I meant to talk to him and explain our concerns about our representation and the expense to our own budget. So I will talk to him.
To Mayor Pro Tem's point, would this be something we can just table and advise staff to move forward with getting a new agreement? I mean, we don't have to approve a number tonight, we can just,
Yeah, I don't,
we don't have to.
We don't
right?
have to have an agreement.
Yeah.
We've never had, I don't think have we ever had an agreement?
Back, the only thing I can find is back in the.
Like in 89 or something like that, I think it said, or something.
Yeah, I
It's
think
been
I
a
read-
while.
I just agree, I'd feel weird just approving a number tonight without talking to them first and just seeing.
So Kathy, I don't know if you know, or Steve, or anybody maybe, and it's not hard, fast numbers, I don't expect it down to the penny, but just for for discussion purposes and for context, what is the budget and population of Bloomfield, roughly?
I don't know.
So I would guess that their budget is relatively close to ours? I mean, is that a fair?
Well, the general fund budget is higher than ours. When you look at total budget, ours is higher simply because of the electric utility.
Right,
So,
okay.
I mean, it depends on.
Yeah, so-
Say budget, what do you mean?
Right, that's a good question. But they have a similar, slightly higher population.
Well, I was prepared to recommend $5,000, but
I was as well.
I could
I was
talk
as well.
with him and explain the situation we feel that we're in being conscientious about our own budget and get some feedback, and then I could call him.
I hate even comparing us to Bloomfield, but I like
Well,
to see the
just
same
numbers,
thing.
apples to apples kind of thing, number of
So
bodies.
what's EDAB, I mean, is this something EDAB could have a, kind of, an opinion on? I mean, it's just a bigger version of EDAB, isn't that what Forset is, I mean,
Well,
I
yeah.
think to,
I'm sorry to be blunt,
But just-
then why don't we have members of EDAB on
So,
Forset, like Mayor Pro Tem said?
Please consider that Arvin with Forset sits on the board at EDAB, so he would be a voting member, which would probably put him in a very...
Certainly conflict of interest.
Yes.
He wouldn't, as far as I'm concerned, he wouldn't be able to vote on that.
Yeah, now, the reason why Forset is part of EDAB is through our LEDA ordinance, we have to have an economic development
Right.
corporation, and they serve as that entity. So,
Meaning E EDAB.
correct.
Okay.
Which ties into LEDA, which if we ever
Right.
want to utilize those resources, we need to have this structure in.
So just to throw, again, to play the opposite end of this, we don't, and I'm not, I'm not suggesting that we completely get out of the Forset game, but we are covered legally by EDAB. So there's no legal have to be a member of Forset. Is that what
Well,
you're saying?
Right now, the ordinance is, by all accounts, you had to have an economic development corporation at the seat of the table to be a board member, to make decisions.
Okay.
That's the same as the chamber or a business that's associated with EDAB. We have to have those individuals in place so that we can conduct a business and we can have a meeting and decide, should we give X amount of money for this economic development project, which ultimately goes to the commission. So we have to have that structure in place by the state.
Okay.
So.
Right.
Which in layman's term is, I mean, because somebody from Forset's has a seat on our EDAB board,
Correct.
is what, basically
I
what
see.
he's.
I understand.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I
Yeah, I
thought,
understand.
I thought maybe they weren't understanding that point.
Yeah,
So-
I get it.
So if we
Thank
don't
you.
have them, we don't have Forset at the table, doesn't matter if they're permanently or just on a short-term basis, it presents a challenge.
Okay.
It presents a problem for us.
I understand.
So-
Okay.
I'll
So
go talk to him.
Mayor,
to your question, I could pose it at an EDAB meeting, I can say, Arvin, tell us what you're worth, tell us what this $20,000
So
is
he's
going
on our
towards.
EDAB, on our advisory board, and he's the president of Forset.
That's correct.
Nice. Okay.
Well, that's good.
No,
That's
yeah, I think
good
it's
that
good.
there's
I mean,
that communication.
I have some
I think
just
so too, I think it's great, I'm just,
general concerns about Forset, just honestly, because like the Mayor Pro Tem said, they struggle to get a quorum. They seem to always kind of
This was
be.
for the
For the
foundation. I go to
foundation.
3 different groups.
Oh, I see.
yeah.
I've been to
It's different.
a couple, and the last one, it's been a while. I think it was last summer. It's been about a year, I'm guessing, give or take. It was while Arvin was the temporary, he was kind of the
Interim.
acting CEO. And, and then Devin left. Is that the one that's left? It just feels as if they're always trying to kind of get some kind of wind under their wings, and they haven't been able to lift off for some time now. And that's my concern, is that we're continuing to prop, or help, it's not like we're the only contributors, and we're not the largest. I'm assuming Farmington is a considerably larger contributor. Is that a fair statement?
Yeah.
Oh, I'm
As
sure.
far as their dollar
Yeah,
amount?
Sure.
But it's just, and I actually had this conversation with him, with Mr. Trujillo, at the meeting I went to, because I wasn't very satisfied with some of the things that they were talking about as far as initiatives, and they seem to have changed a little bit since he's taken over. But I just feel like it's kind of, we're always in the crawl phase with this organization lately. And, yes, sir, Mr. Badger.
It would be disingenuous to not say this, is that, yes, we do pay Forset to be at the table, technically, but we're not paying the chamber, and we're not paying other businesses as
Right,
well, and they're
right.
at the table. This, by and large, should be a voluntary board, so I just wanted to make sure that's clear. But to Commissioner Randall's point, I can go back and I can put I can ask that question.
No, it's fine. I just was curious. I mean,
It's a good
if they
question.
think it's pointless.
I think it's a
or
good
if they-
question.
I think it's important. I mean, we are part of the Four Corners, so Four Corners economic development
Right.
makes
We
sense for
need
us
to be there.
Yeah, I
to
agree.
be there
We
and
need
to,
I personally agree
you
with
know,
that as well.
fiscally,
I'm
you know,
sorry.
help
No,
fund
you're
some
fine.
of that stuff.
Yeah.
Commissioner Sutton?
That's what I wanted to say. It's important for us to have a seat at the table. I don't think that we should ever completely get out of
Right.
it. Whether we
Right.
need the $20,000 worth, I'm fine with lowering that amount. I am, after hearing Arvin speak a couple times this last week, I'm very impressed with the direction that he's going with Forsyths and in the direction that he's trying to do in bringing the tribes on board with contributing some to the Four Corners area and some things like that. So I do think it's very important that we keep a seat at the table and at whatever amount we deem
Appropriate.
appropriate.
Yeah,
Thank
right.
you.
So would it be fitting to approve something tonight, but moving forward to say, because I mean, this is like is it quarterly? I mean,
What-
Did
actually
they
it's
bill
half,
us?
right?
They billed us $10,000
For half of it now?
Half,
Half year, I believe.
right?
Sorry, I would, give you something else.
When I talk, she doesn't listen.
No, what he's saying, and I had the same question, so the $10,000, does that represent a half a year?
Yeah.
Will they
Yes.
send us 2 invoices?
Yes.
They send us 2 invoices per year?
Correct.
Okay. And I'm looking here, and am I looking right, that in 2018,
That was
Wait,
probably
it
for
was-
the 6 months.
oh, it was 10?
July, for-
Oh, okay, I gotcha.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right.
So,
Just a quick point as well on the agreement, or the fact that there is no agreement. Devin did check their files at Forset as well, and she could find no
no
agreement.
agreement.
Right.
So that concerns me because we're just
I
giving
mean,
money
I think 5 would be a good number, but,
I'll be happy to go talk to him, because I was wanting to talk to him anyway, so, or do we want to,
I don't think there's anything wrong with you having a conversation with him before we settle on an amount.
Right, I don't see any sort of date on the invoice
Since we
here.
don't have an agreement and we don't have,
so do we want to table it and then bring it back up the next meeting? And
Even
I'll-
with the COG, we have an agreement, right? And we
Right.
give money to them, but at least we have an agreement saying, this is what we're expected, this is what we're gonna pay, and here's what, the whole point of it. I think it's weird giving people money regardless of what
I
kind of
think we
organization they are.
definitely need to
without
have
some
an
sort of
agreement on file.
'Cause I wanna be here next year again
Moving
saying, oh, we
forward.
still don't have an agreement.
Right. Yeah, I agree
If I'm
with
here
that
next
as
year.
well.
Okay, so,
I just,
Table it?
I would like to come up with a dollar amount, but I'm not gonna, it's not the end of the world, but I mean, I don't think it's a big surprise, and I'm just speaking from my own, I even brought this up to him when I spoke to him. But I'm not, hard fast that we have to, I don't feel like, it's the end of the world if we don't come up with a dollar figure, but I personally would like to come up with one just to do the city's business and to move forward. But, I'm one person, so that's just my take on it. We know kind of the service we've gotten. We've been involved for quite some time now, and Mr. Trujillo has been on board, even in an acting capacity, for a year or better now, if I remember right. And so that's my piece on it, and I'm just gonna open up to any other questions or discussion.
so Mayor, if we put a dollar amount on it and said, say, 5,000, that cuts what they invoiced us in half for
Correct.
that. But, I mean, that doesn't mean that but I think that we should certainly pursue some kind of an agreement with them
Okay.
for our own protection.
Is this something, and maybe as maybe a point to compromise on, if we say, just use that figure as the figure,
As a-
and when Mayor Pro Tem talks to Mr. Trujillo and expresses our need and our desire and expectation to have an agreement in place, that we could always, and I guess maybe Steve or Kathy might be able to speak to this as well, let's suppose we do an agreement, I don't know how long it would take to do that, say 30 days from now, approximately, and they say, well, we really want this amount, can we come back and say, okay, we've revised, we have an agreement in place, we've already given them $5,000, but our new agreement is take effect whatever day, January 1, or for example, or we could prorate the agreement and then afterward have it renew July 1st at the fiscal year, or, I mean, is that?
Any of those are possible. Any agreement that we come to will come to commission for approval. And so if there's still adjustments to be made, until commission approves an agreement, we wouldn't.
Yeah, we're not bound to anything specifically. We could just put that out there as, and that might be a point for them to say, hey, you know, we need to start, instead of just
I don't know
saying,
if they're gonna say anything, really.
they may not. And they might say, okay, that's, you know, that's the hand we've been dealt.
Well, and you're looking at, if we do 5,000, according to, that's half a year, right? I mean, according to what they're doing right now, is 5,000, if we cut it in half.
Well, the
Instead
motion-
of 10, if we said 5, then that's for half.
That would be the
Well, this is
annual,
annual.
the motion is for the
Oh,
annual amount.
The motion is for the
Yeah.
annual,
5,000.
okay.
They
you're
only,
right.
in the past, we've just
They billed for the
habitually
half.
given them 20 and they bill us twice a
Right,
year for it, so.
Right. I just wanted to make sure we were clear that it would,
We can change it.
Right, right.
It doesn't have to be for an annual
Right.
amount.
Right.
You could approve an amount
Quarterly.
for now
For-
until
or-
an agreement is in play. You know, that's certainly your option. And I'll defer to the attorney, but I think that's an option.
That is true.
We can
Okay.
do what we want.
Yes.
Mayor,
Yes.
I just, and what I like about it is it even says on the FY20 funding request, any other funding request, we ask for them to show, you know, what the money's gonna be spent
Right.
on, what they plan to do with it.
Right, exactly.
I'd like to see
Additionally,
something.
they haven't come to
That's
us and
true.
said, look, this is what we're doing with your money, and they're not,
We have an idea, but.
they're not here either. I don't know, I'm assuming,
Okay, so
No.
that's probably my
Well,
mistake.
it's not your fault.
Because I had to create a staff summary.
No, okay.
No, it's
To
fine.
say something.
right,
No, but that's what it is, though, is a funding request. I mean, it really is.
yeah.
Yeah.
A funding request, I mean, I
You're
just like the
right.
way it's worded, because that's what they're doing. Everyone else, we expect them to say, well, what are you gonna spend the money on? What are we getting out of it? You know, what's the benefit? And we have nothing, like, we don't.
I would like to keep the motion as is and just settle on a dollar amount, and then if we want to renegotiate it, we can renegotiate it, but if we don't want to, it'll already be in place. And we can just have our seat at the table, which is still twice what our sister city just down the street from us with a similar population is paying. And I think I personally feel like that's fair, but what do you think, Mr. Major? Do you want to add something to it?
I asked this question, and I'm probably out of line when you've been asking it, so I apologize in advance, apologize, Steve. But I guess the question I would want to know is, $20,000 is a lot of money. So if we're going to pay $20,000, what does this commission and this community expect out of it? That's first and foremost. If I'm going to hire a consultant, I'm expecting I'm going to get this type of service or this type of product back. Maybe we ought to start there. If Forsyth says they're going to bring in Facebook here, that's going to bring 200 jobs, $20,000 is.
Right, because I've been hearing things
Very
like,
well.
I've been hearing rail to Nappy
Right.
for years, and I've only been here 5 years.
And that's a.
And I know that's been going on longer than that, and they're still
Decades.
talking about that as one of their cornerstone projects.
And that's a great idea. But we have to understand that, how does that affect Aztec?
Right.
Is the rail going to come through Aztec, or are we going to be a byproduct of that
Sure.
service?
And I think it's important to, even if something's going to be good for the area, I don't necessarily, maybe at a $20,000 amount, but at a lower amount, I understand that it's kind of a collective kind of benefit to the region, and I think that's a win for everybody. But to your point, yeah, I agree with you. What are we getting for our investment under our financial, ups and downs? And I don't think it's $20,000 worth. And I do feel, just in my short tenure, not only as a citizen of Aztec, but as a commissioner, that we continue to hear a lot of the very same initiatives year in and year out with little to nothing to show for it. And I'm not blaming anybody. I'm not saying they're not trying, but at the end of the day, if somebody's not providing a service for what you pay them for, you find somebody else, or you cut, or you reduce your commitment, or you cut your commitment altogether. And I'm not saying that Mr. Trujillo isn't hard at it every single day. I don't know the guy. I'm sure he's working hard. But we have to consider our financial investment, and our return on that investment, and our concerns as kind of stewards of the money that we pay here in Aztec to outside entities to do stuff for us. And I can't really point to anything unless somebody knows something specific that they can point to and say, this is what they have helped us bring to Aztec.
I don't, specifically, probably not, but just a FYI on the rail, why you've been hearing about it for so long, is because that would have to cross some of the Navajo Nation, and that's been one of the biggest drawbacks,
Right, right.
which is where I think Arvin has made more progress in that area than anybody that I've seen since I've been on the commission. So I just, I don't know.
And we could always go back. If
always
things
go
start
back
to
and
come
forth.
back, we
Yeah,
could say, hey, you know,
absolutely.
this is
Yeah.
wonderful, and we want to help support your mission because you have shown this X, Y, and Z result. So now we want to help you become more successful, and that's going to cost more money because of whatever return. I mean, I'm not an investor, I'm new at this, but that's just my take on it from a layman's point of view, is that I believe that $5,000 is appropriate for where we are right now, and that's kind of where I'm going to leave it and open it up either any further discussion, or if somebody, we feel like we're done, somebody can make a motion. Yes, ma'am.
I would just encourage you, when you make the motion, or move to approve funding to Four Corners Economic Development in the amount of whatever, instead of annual, being that way it can be annual, that can be a period, but it doesn't have to be.
Okay,
Good idea.
thank you. Okay.
So I'm good.
Yes, ma'am.
I don't know. I'm just gonna throw out there that I'm good with 5,000.
Okay.
And we'll just take out the
Commissioner Randall?
annual. I think that's a good idea.
See, I was thinking 2,500, and then give them the option to come back and explain to us, and then get another 2,500.
Oh.
But in my head, that's just what I'm,
Right.
and that's why I was gonna take out annual also, and just say like current funding, funding now, and then just, have staff or,
And I don't know
Mayor
about
Pro
you,
Tem
but-
extend to them, we're not being like, oh, hardlining it, but just, well, we just want to
Right.
see.
That would
If someone comes
likely,
up to me and says, hey, we just left a workshop from the golf course where you were, wouldn't give us anything, or possibly wouldn't give us anything, but you're gonna give $20,000 to Four Corners Economic Development, where here, you could have just given that to that for an economic development
right,
venture. It
that's a
just
year for the
I-
lease.
kills me.
Yeah,
inside.
that's true.
Yes, true.
So I'm comfortable either
okay.
way. So if somebody wants to make a motion, I would entertain a motion for business item B.
Mayor, I'd move to approve funding to Four Corners Economic Development in the amount of $2,500 with an invitation for them to come and
Present.
ask for more.
Maybe we want
I
to,
think if you
Or just
just
leave it.
leave it with a period there.
Period.
Right.
That gives you
I
lots of
rescind-
opportunity to explore.
I rescind my previous motion. I make a new motion to move to approve funding to Four Corners Economic Development in the amount of $2,500.
Second.
we have a motion and a second. Carla, would you please call the roll?
Mayor Snover,
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Wright,
Aye.
Commissioner Randall,
Aye.
Commissioner Sight,
Aye.
Commissioner Lewis,
Aye.
motion passes 5-0.
Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting back to my agenda. I think we're down to
It's over.
department head, city commission reports.
Oh,
Do you have the paper one? I just don't want to read it wrong. Okay.
You need, I got it pulled up right
Yeah, I
here.
don't have it.
Here.
I'm trying to get to mine and
Is
it's
it-
not.
It's just the city manager and,
Okay, yeah, I thought so. Okay, so next is Commissioner, City Manager, and Department Head reports. Mr. Mueller.
Yes, sir. Very briefly, we have the barrels out there for the Echo Food Drive.
Oh,
We'll be
yeah.
getting those distributed hopefully tomorrow. Quick update on the water situation. We are in good shape now. Talked to Andrew today. I don't think at this point there's a need to move to
Drop
stage 2.
stage. Okay. That's good
We've
news.
got all of our supply pretty much full. Parks should start to winterize here fairly quick, which is going to take away a lot of that usage. Ditches are going to be going off fairly soon as well, which will help the river. So we're continuing to monitor, but at this point, we look to be in pretty good shape. And, yes, sir,
So we're staying in stage 1 still?
correct,
Okay.
correct.
Is that just perpetual until it gets awesome?
I'm sorry?
Is that just gonna be a perpetual stage 1 until we get like flooded? I'm just asking.
Well, stage one is, there's nothing mandatory, it's all
Right.
volunteers. Just our thought has been that it keeps in everybody's mind that regardless of what time of year we're in, we need to think about water conservation.
Okay. I just-
So, yeah, at this point, my thought is just leave it there until
Okay.
whatever prime is.
Until, yeah.
So that's all I have, Mr. Mayor.
Thanks, sir. Ms. Hunsaker?
I do not have a report.
Commissioner Saib?
I have a couple things, sorry. First thing is that we do have a new interim executive director for Northwest New Mexico Seniors.
Oh, that's good
Yay.
news. It's been
We will-
several months, right?
It's been a year.
Wow, yeah.
Over a year.
Okay.
It was a year in August. So I know our financial person, Sandra Yoakum, I know that she's very relieved not to be doing both jobs anymore. And we'll actually have our first board meeting with her tomorrow in Bloomfield, Northwest Mexico Seniors. Her name is Susan Steinhoff Smith. And she seems very qualified, and she seems excited to come on board and start getting things going. On that same note, we do have an assessment. It was decided by the executive board, and Aztec is participating in helping to pay for that through our funds that we already had set aside for. And the reason it didn't come before commission is because it was less than
Yeah,
whatever the
it's
amount-
$2,500 is what this city's in for to do
Yeah.
the assessment.
Okay.
And so that's why it didn't come before you guys, but Jeff Kiley's going to do an assessment on our branch, non-metro AAA, and Aging and Long-Term Services comes in and they do the whole program, like all of our, to make sure we're following all the rules and have everything posted and doing everything that we need. This is strictly an assessment on our Northwest New Mexico Seniors office and practices to see where we can be more efficient, hopefully to be able to deal with some of the cuts and everything that they continually have to do with. So that should be starting soon, and that's part of the reason why we still just went with the interim executive director till we get that assessment back and kind of see where we are on that.
Okay.
So good news that that's moving forward. Then I attended the joint meeting of EDAB and the New Mexico Small Business Association, and MEP, I think, was a part of that too. That was interesting. I didn't stay for the whole thing, but I was there for most of it. We heard from Stephen about the projects in Aztec, and from the mayor of Bloomfield Schools, the mayor of Kirtland, and Mike Stark, and from Arvin Trujillo. So that was, I think, very informative. And then the lady from the Los Alamos National Labs, and she represented Sandia National Labs. It's New Mexico Small Business Association. Thank you.
Sounds good.
It's like, anyway, talking about like helping inventors and how they can help, and different things that they can do to help people that have ideas, or ideas for a small business maybe even. So anyway, it was interesting. That evening then I attended what was it? I have it right here somewhere.
It was called a business
Yeah,
coalition?
it was called BASH. It was from the New Mexico Business Coalition put it on, and it was at Marion Oil, and they had the deputy director from the U.S. Department of Energy, and he did a presentation, and then they had a panel discussion about a potential petrochemical plant still, so coming to town. So anyway, that was good news. And I attended MPO, I think it was last Thursday, and things are, they're moving along. They've been striping, which is good.
Yes.
We got some of that. I know there's still some to be done. And they talked about, they're talking about doing that safety corridor on 173 Navajo Dam Road, which was just a 2-mile thing, but now they're looking at a separate study to do like 19 miles of that, but that's going to be a while down the road before they get the study and get everything in place on that. So, but it's something that's needed very badly on that road. So that would entail getting right-of-ways and some fun stuff like that. So Also, I just wanted to remind you guys that George Sharp will be here next Tuesday at 5:15 to present.
I have that on mine as well.
Okay.
And not to jump into your thread
No.
there, but is it possible, and this, I apologize for this literally came up to me Friday, and I mentioned it to Steve, and he suggested we just wait until tonight
Oh,
to
okay.
bring it up. Is there any way, do you think, that can be rescheduled? I will be in Washington DC next week.
Oh, okay.
And I would like to be here for it, because
Yeah.
I think me, more than anybody, is probably the least
I'll-
knowledgeable on some of that stuff, because, one, I'm just so new here, and it's not part of my background.
No, I think it would be good, because he's got a presentation on fracking, and then he's also got one on methane emissions, and,
Yeah.
and then the reason we did it on a non-commissioned night is so that we
Right.
would have time for questions and
And I
stuff. So-
apologize for that.
so
It
let
was
me-
just one of those things that I couldn't pass up the opportunity, so.
Let me reach out to him and see
Yeah.
if what would work for him to reschedule that.
I'll be, so basically all in next week, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday is when I'll actually be out of the area.
Okay,
So I apologize, and like I said, it was just one of
Okay.
those things.
okay, I'll reach out to him and see if we can't reschedule that, because I do think it's important for all of us to
Yeah, and I
to
don't
be
want
here.
to, and I do want to be here for it, and
So-
so,
The last thing I have is a scam for our electric department. I know Delane sent out a thing, and thank you, Wallace, for taking my call on Friday. My daughter called me Friday morning and said that she had gotten a call from Green Energy Corporation saying that she had hundreds of dollars in past due Aztec electric bills. She doesn't even have Aztec Electric.
oops.
Wow.
And she has a cell phone, so they called on her cell phone, not on a landline. So anyway, she called me right away just to alert, and we were worried about elderly and stuff, and so Wallace, I think, got a hold of Delane, and Steve was on that too, and tried to get the word out on the Facebook and different things, just letting people know that there was that scam
I
going
saw that
around,
as well. Thank you. for putting-
because the elderly will fall for it, So anyway, I don't know if you got any other people calling about that, but
Yeah, we have some businesses, but we do,
It's fairly common.
Yeah.
then,
Wow.
yeah, it was just weird that they called on her cell phone, and she lives outside the city limits, so she's on City of Farmington Electric. So she's like,
okay.
told them right away, she says, you're barking up the wrong tree. So, but I'm sure, yeah, it's crazy, yeah. But anyway, thank you for Wallace for getting on that for me, and Steve for getting back with me, I appreciate that, and Delane. So that's it, thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Lewis, sorry.
Hasn't changed lately. Couple of things. I'd planned on attending that same function with Commissioner Sipe last Thursday, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Thursday
But
evening.
Thursday evening, my boss arrived in town and she had other plans. So I ended up working until about 7:30 that night. Wouldn't have worked. So I apologize for not attending that. But I did attend the San Juan Water Commission meeting last week, along with our city manager. They're still working on the language, et cetera, for applying for diversion or release, I should say, release from Ridges Basin, which is Lake Night Horse. They're still going back and forth. We'll have another meeting on it next month, I think, or is it December? They're gonna do, anyway, 1 month, they'll be doing it. One other thing that came up during that meeting was the annual Colorado River Water Users Association meeting in December in Las Vegas, Nevada. I hope to attend that, actually. It's not on the city's dime, so it's okay. It's actually on the Water Commission's dime. So I think it'd be very important to us to keep our fingers in that, because it's important to keep track of it, because we are still, we're back in severe drought. We never did get completely out of drought, we're back in severe drought. So let's hope for a nice wet winter, lots of snow in the mountains, because we'll need it next year. And I did have the opportunity to attend the Shiprock Northern Navajo Fair Parade this past weekend. It was the first time I've actually attended that parade. It was quite the experience.
I bet it was fun.
It was a lot of fun. Getting up at 3 in the morning to get out there was interesting. But it was actually cold until the sun came up. But it was a really nice experience. I might even do it again, I think, because it was just a lot of fun. But anyway, that's all for right now, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. Commissioner Randall?
just real quick, I had attended the lodgers tax meeting last month. They had a board member resign, and so I'm not sure. It sounded like they were hopeful in getting it filled pretty fast. One of the local hotels representatives moved, so we're trying to get someone else on there. And they have approved a funding request for Aztec Sparkles, and a lot of the discussion was around the LTAB logo, and they're trying to get funding applications revised to where we get more feedback on, whenever lodgers tax does approve funding to an event, what's the return on it, just mainly numbers on how many people attended, things like that. And if they want to be eligible for funding the next year, they need to provide some information and feedback so we know whether or not it's, doing better or worse, or just any kind of feedback. So they're good about getting on there. I forget his name, or is it Josh, the kid from Presidential Suites?
Oh, yeah.
Is the president of the board there, and he's doing a really good job. It's more active and more interaction and conversation than what I've experienced in previous years, so it's a really good meeting. And do have a library board later this week on Thursday. It's our last one for the year because none of us wanted to meet during the holidays, so we figure we're gonna meet this week and get it done, and it'll be good. So hopefully I'll have something to report at the next meeting on that. And other than that, I did see that they stocked Tiger Park and Riverside Pond this last week from the Game and Fish, stocked some fish in there. I haven't been up there to see the fishing report, or to provide a fish report, but at least we're getting more fish put in. It's been a long time since they stocked Tiger Park, so maybe this winter we'll have some good fishing up there.
Cool.
That's all I have.
Thank you. Mayor Pro Tem?
Well, I went to the two meetings that Sherry went to, EDAB and the meeting at Marion Oil, so I won't go into that. But I did attend the Highland Games and did the welcome for the city of Aztec on Saturday and Sunday. Large crowd on Saturday, beautiful weather, and of course got to hear Amazing Grace on the bagpipes, which will just kill you, So anyway, it's a beautiful ceremony out there with everybody in their kilts and so forth. And that's all.
Okay, thank you. Couple of quick things. I also have I have an Echo Board meeting on, I believe, October 21st. Delane, do you handle like parade permits, et cetera? Chief has, and I'm just curious, and I just thought of this, man, Veterans Day is like a month away. Has anybody done a permit for that?
Remember that one coming through yet?
Okay.
They'll usually come in and do it.
Right.
Last year, they didn't want to do one, so I don't know if they
Well,
decided.
we did one last year, we didn't do one the year before, because they had some issues with their liquor license or something, and they were going through some issues. We did do it last year, because I remember going and serving eggs, and we did the parade. Yeah, because the JROTC always does it.
Just go by to-
I know.
Right, yeah, I understand. The only reason I remember is because we skipped that one year, and then last year I know we did it because my cadets were bummed about the year before. Yes, ma'am?
They have been passing out their flyers for the
Oh, okay.
parade.
So it looks like they're on top of it. That's good. Good news. I'll tell my kids tomorrow in class. I want to do a little shout out for Public Lands Day this Saturday. Oftentimes, and I'm not trying to steal your thunder, I don't know if you're going to give a report or not, Jeff, but I did want to bring it up, and he sent out, I've gotten a couple of reminders, I think through ATOS, through Kelly Townsend, and also through Jeff. Oftentimes, we have folks say, why don't we get together and do something to help beautify the area? And I know we're all busy, and we all have lives, and we have families and things like that, but this is a perfect opportunity to fulfill that commitment to do something important for the city of Aztec and for the outlying area. It's unfortunate that people think it's okay to dump their hot tubs, literally, out into the hills, but it happens. And if it weren't for folks like our Parks Department head and ATOS folks and other citizens going out there and cleaning the stuff up, it would just turn into a hazard and definitely an eyesore. So I think it's important. Barring any emergencies, I'll be there for sure. I was there last year, and I'll be there to help again. Jeff will be the one lifting the hot tub, and I'll be eating burritos while he's doing that. But I'll be there to help, and I think you just have to bring your own gloves. We're going to bring vests and any other equipment needed. We just have to bring our own gloves. So I encourage folks to come out to do that. And if you need details, I think it's on the Facebook page, or you could reach out to any of the city staff probably, and they could turn you on to Jeff for actual location. We just, and again, speaking of our Parks Department head, Mr. Blackburn, he and I attended the Outdoor Rec and Economic Development Conference that New Mexico Wilderness Alliance sponsored this past week in Silver City. One, I've never been to Silver City, so it was super cool. I had a great time there. Had a good time with Jeff. We talked about a lot of ideas, and he was furiously scribbling notes the entire 2 days of the conference. And I know he had some good ideas because he shared some of them with me as we were sitting next to each other. And it was just, speaking of kind of going back to the golf course workshop about outdoor rec and tourism, this is kind of the hot topic at the state level as well, and that's where we're heading. We have a new director of outdoor recreation that is, it's not a cabinet level spot, but it's just below that at the state now. She's fairly new, a couple of weeks on the job, I believe. And just something I want to, because Mr. Saavedra and I, Mr. Mueller and I have talked about this, and I'm sure others have talked or kicked it around as well. But she said that there's a $50,000 kind of a seed sort of thing for an outdoor recreation incubator. And we have talked about this specifically to try and maybe do this in Aztec. And I spoke to her briefly about it. I mean, let's be realistic, it's probably going to be somewhere in the I-25 corridor initially, because that's where the population is. But I broached the subject of maybe doing it in a regional way going forward, or if a community, say, I don't know, Aztec, for example, where it was able to come up with some plans and some engineering and things like that and get some capital outlay from the state in the next couple of years, that would they partner with us to kind of help do some of the heavy lifting and not reinvent the wheel sort of thing and provide admin support and things like that. And she said, while it's a new department, that's exactly how she envisions those things going forward, is communities that are kind of a little more forward thinking and are trying to get ahead of the curve on this stuff and get out there before it becomes saturated, and partner with the state agencies to make it successful. So we're not kind of going out there alone. And that also takes a little bit of the burden off of a city the size of like an Aztec, because money's always an issue, and staffing and maintenance and those types of things. So it sounds like there's opportunities that will be kind of underwritten by this state agency as we move forward. So I'm pretty excited about it, and I know Jeff was pretty excited about just all of the panels. It was really worthwhile for sure. And we got scholarships, so our room and stuff was paid for. So that's also a bonus. And that is, got that. That's all I have. So thank you very much. Yes, ma'am, Commissioner Seib.
We need to set our closed session for the city manager
Yes,
evaluation.
thank you. I was thinking about that earlier today and then I forgot. Carla, can you get back to us on that, please? We can do it next meeting, maybe? I know we have a workshop.
So we can get that.
Yeah, we got to get that out of the way, because Commissioner Seib and I have met, we've gone over the results, it's all kind of tallied up and ready to go. It's just, with all the stuff that's been going on lately, it was just one of those things that got overlooked, and so I apologize for that. I'll take the hit for that. But we are going to get that handled.
I almost forgot to. So.
So thank you for the reminder. Department head reports. Sorry, we're kind of dragging this out a little bit.
Mayor, Commissioners, I just want to report that Waste Management had a little bit of glitch of recycling pickup on Friday. It didn't get picked up on Friday, and there are no more routes, something to do with their spooling. The corporate office, I guess, puts it all in the days that it needs to be, but somehow when it came over to the local entities, it didn't get spooled correctly, so our recycle people didn't get picked up on Friday. But they did respond very quickly as soon as they found out, which was Monday morning when we started getting all the calls. They got a truck rolling Monday and got it all picked up. They did miss a couple places because it's so sporadic when they do pick up.
Right.
Maybe they can't see them or they're just not used to it yet. But they'll have those picked up finished tomorrow. There's about 10 left that
Okay.
have called in that missed, but it
Thank
is
you.
all done. And I think Joe was here to talk about that, but I must have got a call because he left. But
Okay.
anyway, just wanted you to know it's taken care of if you hear anything.
So, Delane, I've heard from several people that they didn't know that they had to call to get a recycle bin.
That is true now.
And so-
We've sent out flyers for 4 months.
I know, I
Yeah.
know they've been in there,
Right.
but I've just, in talking to a couple of people, same thing like you said, the electric bill, it's like,
Yeah,
you know,
right.
and they don't look at the sometimes they don't look at the inserts. And so I just know that I've had a couple people tell me that, and I'm like, so it's like, well, what do I need to do? I said, call Delane and she'll tell you what to do. So-
Yeah, 327-6284, I don't really memorized, but, yeah, once that order form, we went past that, it's better if Waste Management handles it. and then
Individually
they
now,
can get it
yeah.
Okay.
Exactly where it needs to
Okay.
go.
But I've had several people just in the last couple of weeks, like since the first pickup, like last month in September, I've had several people say, well, I never got my bin, and I'm like, well, did you turn in your paper?
Yeah.
You know?
What paper?
And the bill's coming out now, the
Right,
curbside recycling.
and folks are like, yeah, I have this charge, and I didn't,
And I don't have a
right.
cart. And we're
Right.
getting lots of those calls.
Yeah,
Okay.
so, anyway. yeah.
Maybe our percentage will jump up a little bit. If folks, I mean, if you're paying for it, you might as well use it, right?
Oh, I had somebody
What
tell
I'm
me
hearing.
they'd use theirs for
Mine's full.
storage. But he was gonna get it because he's paying for it.
Okay, thank you, Delane. Who's next? I think we got a vote.
Mayor, Commission. Just to continue on where the mayor was with the Outdoor Economic Conference, it was fantastic. Of course, we got excited. You know, we were looking and listening and thinking of all the things we could do and had a few ideas coming back and some low-hanging fruit I thought we could maybe pick on. So I got with our tourism director, Ed, and also with Will Ann, our visitor center director. And man, these guys are on top of it. I mean, I just want, every time I come back from a Worry meeting or something like this, I think, wow, you know, we should do this and do this, and then I call.
They're already pursuing it. Yeah, I've noticed that as well,
I just
so.
want to say kudos
Yeah.
to them. I mean, they sent me an outline plus their whole plan for promotion for tourism and stuff. I mean, Ed's got this great book, I'm sure we've all seen, that has every nook and cranny in the Four Corners area photographed with the outlines and everything. So we are doing it. I mean, we're in on the tourism economic development. We're annexing land out there to try to get more, the Mountain View cycling track under our purview so we can get the ARC study and all that done. Great things going on in our community with that. So I'm really excited, continue to be excited. Of course, we'll look at some of that other stuff
Sure.
that we saw down there, maybe for grants and stuff like that, but there's a lot going on. Fantastic. Thank you for promoting the Saturday event, 2.5 miles out that way towards the motorcycle track, right past the motorcycle track, turn south. That's the rougher road. If you go up to the fire station and come back to the west, that's an easier road, but you have to walk in farther. Okay? We'll be out there. My phone number's on the flyer. Call me. We're going to have a tractor. We're going to have a flatbed. We'll have a trailer. We're going to try to get all that junk picked up, see what we
Cool.
can do. So come join us. I appreciate it. Just want to let you know that now all of our automated system, we're operating through our phones. Okay, we're no longer using radios. So if you see my guys out in the field on their phone, there's a 20% chance that they are operating, 80% chance that they're operating
Not checking their Facebook or anything?
We're almost done this year. We are winterizing already. We're going to shut down. We're always concerned at the tough times, you know, whether we're going to freeze or not freeze
Right.
or whatever, but we're in that process.
Probably gonna
And they're calling for a freeze this weekend, so.
Yeah, and then I wanted to speak about the YCC project. We're gonna seed that this fall because it is seeded. It's gonna take several years for that to come up. So you're gonna see a weed patch back down there. You're gonna probably have maybe some questions about that. It will take 3 to 4 years for us to get the grass to outcompete the weeds. So we'll keep working that annually, putting that down. So if you go down there next year and it's 4 foot high, or, you know, we'll come around and mow it, we'll get it down, but it is gonna look ratty for a time until we can get the turf.
Okay.
Okay. I think that's everything I have.
Thanks, sir.
Thanks, guys.
Okay, I think that's it. All right, thank you, everybody. Move to adjourn.
Second.
Thank you. Have a good night.